Welcome to Leadership Coaching. Each week, we explore fresh topics inspired by our coaching clients
and our guests to discover the essence of effective leadership. Welcome to Leadership Coaching. It's good to be back with you in the new year. Now we've released a few episodes already this year, and yet it's that time in the new year when we start to go, wait a minute, how new is this? Right? and there's also the question, how new should it be? Right? How new would you like it to be? Maybe it's good that it's not all that new. So this is where we'd like to pick up today. I'm Martin Kettlehut, glad to be with you. And my partner in this crime is Bill Tierney.
Yeah, partner in the crime. When you're talking about we're already a few weeks into 2025, we're actually recording this on January 1st, but we've got 4 episodes already recorded that are going to be released. Plus, I know that we're going to be having Eilina join us on the 15th. So this might not even be released until, let's say, the middle of February. So yeah, let's kind of look at it from that perspective. 6 weeks into the year, how's it going so far?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it, does it have the energy that you want the new year to have? You've had a couple, a month and a half now to sort of see, like, did the ideas that you had on, at the New Year's Eve party, are they playing out? Are they getting implemented or not? Right? Or did you have some ideas about the way the New Year should be that now you're like, I'm not so much identified with those anymore?
Yeah. So resolutions, I mean, that's a word that maybe it's old school. I don't know if people still do New Year's resolutions or not, but I know I used to do them all the time. And usually I'm going to quit this thing. I'm going to stop doing that. I know my daughter also has, and she spends the month of December thinking about what is my word of the year going to be this year?
I was just with a client who does the same thing. She's like, I don't do resolutions anymore, but I got 3 words, right?
Yeah.
And they're not just to be clear, they're words, but they're energy. They're labels or symbols for an energy, like the word could be joy, or the word could be organization, but it's an energy that it's not the word we're interested in. It's what it points to.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to approach a new beginning, a new year. One is to just ignore it as it's another day. Yesterday was December 31st. Today is January 1st. So what? Mm-hmm. What's different, if anything, other than the measurement of time? It's only different if we want it to be, and if we declare it to be, and set an intention to do something different than we've done in the past.
And it's a good opportunity, that these sort of celebrations, because humankind notice, like, oh, it's good to have a reflection on what we're thankful for at Thanksgiving, or the light coming back into our lives at Christmas or Hanukkah, whichever, whatever you celebrate. So, but as you just said, it might be that there's no change desired, and it's just a matter of noticing time passing. So it's an opportunity, and it's your choice.
That's right. So which direction do we want to go here? One thought that I have is that we might talk about what each of us are doing about this new beginning, this new year, and what our intentions are for the year. How does that sound? Is that a good place to start, do you suppose? Do you have another idea?
I like that idea, and I'm also thinking I want to at some point get around to, okay, so you had a great idea. If you had a great idea and it doesn't seem to be panning out, what's the course correction, right?
Yeah.
So I did want to get to that topic too.
Okay. So how are you and I going about this opportunity to reset for the new year? And if the listener, 6, 5, 6, 7 weeks into the years listening to this, they've had enough time to see if there's any momentum and traction on what they intended, or if they haven't intended anything, even then, what do they want to do about it?
Right.
Is
Right.
that basically what you're saying? Just
Right.
maybe,
Yes.
maybe reset the reset again, possibly.
Right.
Okay, cool. So Marty, have you done any formal planning for 2025?
I have indeed. Yes. I use the technology that we talked about, project design, to create my goals and uh, places to stand and everything for the new year. Yes. I don't have that right in front of me, but I could pull it up. But I think that, like, what I want to say about that is that, I recognized in our work and in having been a coach for many years that I like to take advantage of the opportunity that it's a new year. And it's been, for me and for many people I know, 2024 was, an event filled and not always easy year to, I want to say, wake up into the new year and get intentional, get creative, and powerful is the word I'm looking for about, what 2025 is gonna be like. It seems to me, it's something that I'm interested in doing. So I actually designed a project, the project of 2025.
So you have an intention, you have an actual designed plan, a project that's planned out, complete. I assume complete with the actions that you need to take and
Mm.
consistent, repeatable things that you're going to be doing in order to achieve that plan. And do you mind if I ask, are you willing to share any details about the plan in terms of like what are the goals, objectives, or measurements?
Um, it's kind of complex. I could
Is it based on business or personal life or a combination of both?
both. Yeah, I like to come from a general place. My plan is all about integration, right? So I don't wa- I'm not thinking in terms of, okay, what am I doing for work? Like, as if that's in a silo, and then what am I doing in my personal life as if that's in a silo. Like, part of my whole plan, that's my biggest word at the top of my plan, is integration. It's about, you know, let's say, well, one of my possibilities for the year uh, is a possibility of being joyful, right? And if personal and professional are pulling against each other, that destroys the joyfulness. So
Right.
I start with joy, and then I look at how does that get expressed in work, and how does that get expressed in my private life, as opposed to what is my goal here in work, and then what is my goal here, and
I
then
think,
they don't integrate.
yeah, yeah. They may or may not integrate, right? They could still integrate,
They could, right?
but if you're not intentional about it, there's less of a chance that they will. I love that. So you're you're not segregating them. You're just thinking about your whole life. And what I hear from you is that the word of the year for you is integration, and the feel of the year for you is joyful.
Yeah, I mean, just another example. I I did a lot of experimenting with marketing, different kinds of marketing in 2024,
Mm-hmm.
and they were disintegrated from what really drives me as a business person and as a human being, right? They were like techniques or, schemes in a sense, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I paid a lot of money for them too. And I think part of the reason why they weren't as successful as I'd like is because they weren't integrated. They were separate. Like, okay, I'll go do this marketing thing now, and it didn't really come from the center of my being, right?
yeah.
That's another place where, I'm the general plan that I designed. is about being myself with with people, in conversation and in sales conversations, like being more authentically me and not doing this marketing thing separate from being me, right?
Yeah.
So there's another one of the levels of integration.
Yeah.
Does that to give you a better sense of my
It does. Yeah. You're noticing, in contrast to what you experienced in 2024, you went 25. If you're going to be marketing, for example, if you're going to be doing some marketing, you want
which
to,
I am because I'm in business.
yeah, right. Yeah. And you are because you're in business, but I'm also hearing that you are and you intend to be consciously. You're going to do it with intention. You're going to be conscious of what you're doing. You're not going to just hope something happens.
Of course not, right?
Well, that sounds almost laughable. And in fact, you're laughing, but I've had years where I hoped something would happen.
Uh,
I didn't have an intention. I didn't have a plan. And guess what happened? Not much.
well, yeah, which is not to say that I don't hope something will happen. It's just that I also have a structure, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
to make it more likely that something will happen.
I would say that I, unlike you, don't really have a structured project designed plan, although you and Nora and I worked on one a few weeks back in one of those and recorded it as an episode. I
Right.
do have that. I'm not saying that I don't have that, but I'm holding it pretty loosely, because what's driving it is the tempo and pace of the writing that I'm doing that will result in the book I end up having published sometime in 2025. So I do have an objective, and that is to have the first draft of it completed enough to submit to my publisher by my birthday on March 26th. And it looks like I'm pretty well on pace for that. By the way, and I know we talked about we were going to check in from time to time to see how I was doing on my project. So I'll just report now. If this comes out in the middle of February, that means that I'm going to only be 5 or 6 weeks away by the time listeners get this from that release date. But I shouldn't say release date, from the day that I submit my draft to the publisher for its first edit. And so one pretty significant thing that's happened just since maybe the last time we talked about this on the podcast is that the book has mushroomed so much. I'm under contract at the publisher to publish a book between 40 and 60,000 words. And so far I've got 80,000 words and I'm not out of part 1 yet. So it looks like, oh my goodness. So it's looking like it's going to end up being 2 books, which is kind of exciting. I was feeling pressured and burdened by the idea of, oh my God, what am I going to cut? I love all of this. And how am I going to get the word count down to where the publisher tells me it needs to be? Well, somebody suggested, in fact, it was my writing coach, Jerry Wackler, just yesterday said, well, maybe this is 2 books. Boom, the light came on. Yep, it looks like it's going to be 2 books.
That's right.
So this little, report that I'm giving you right now is kind of what happens once we have a plan and begin to work it. It's a good example of what happens once we have a plan and we begin to work it. It's time sometimes to adjust and reset a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe not in the overall objective, but maybe it's in the scope of what we already identified, what I've already identified I want to do. I want to get this book published. And I probably would have said 3-4 months ago, how about a second book? If you'd have said that to me, I would have said, nah, no, thank you. I think one's going to be enough. Now I'm seeing already I need to have a second book even before I've got the first one done.
Yeah. I could give a similar example, even though it's the first of the year that as we're recording. I can tell that one of the things that is part of my project that's my success at this part that I mentioned, which is marketing my business. There's a requirement in it that I haven't been doing in December, because I wrote this at the beginning of December. And I need to be aware, starting today, of socializing more, right? That's part of what is going to bring in the business, is that I'm out in the world interacting with people, and they get to see what it's like to be with me, and they decide to hire me as their coach. And I didn't do much of that. I didn't do enough of that in December. Um, and so I can already see I need to, there's an adjustment that needs to be made there for me to be successful in the new year at what I intend. So I'm looking at, like groups to join or to start, right? To have to be in social connection with people.
Yeah.
So what I think the crucial moment there, if you're 6 weeks into your year and you're going, oh, I got something like that. I said I was going to be socializing in my case, or, maybe going to the gym or what have you, like keeping track of my finances, whatever it might be for you. And you're not, and it's like, okay, I said that, but I'm not doing it. Right. So then there needs to be a moment of truth with self. This is the crucial thing, I think. Right. It's a personal coming to Jesus moment, or to Muhammad, however you practice, where in that moment of truth, life can alter in a profound way. Right. And that was what was missing when the intention was set, is that there was something that wasn't taken into account. Like, if this is going to work, I'm going to need this structure. I'm going to need this accountability partner. I'm going to need, new clothes to go to this new job and have it be successful. I don't know what, it could be anything like that, but there's got to be that moment. And what's beautiful about that moment of, facing the truth about why things aren't working, is that, life can transform that fast. You can have set a whole new set out on a whole new path that'll be much more successful. But there's got to be that reckoning with, what didn't I take into account about myself or the circumstances?
Yeah. So in 12 step, we talk about taking an inventory, and that's what it sounds like to me that you're referring to. How did I do? Where did I maybe come up short? What am I happy with? What would I like to continue or build upon that worked well? What did I learn that I don't want to have to repeat again? Am I getting the gist of what you're pointing at here?
Yes, very much so. I mean, one of the most common ways that I've heard this occur is that people will say, oh, that turned out to be pie in the sky. And then they give it up. Right. And then it comes back next year again. Like, so there is a wanting there, and then it doesn't pan out. And so it gets, put away as pie in the sky, or dreaming, or, it gets devalued. And yet there is an impetus there to do something. And it comes back next January 1st too. So what's the distance between those two? Like, it's missing about the idea, right? That would make it real, that would make it realizable, as opposed to just writing it off. Like, well, I guess it was thinking too, too hopefully, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I was biting off more than I could chew, more than I deserved, and so therefore I'm just going to settle for what I got instead.
Right, exactly. And in some cases, yes, you want to say, be okay, that was unrealistic. I don't know what I was thinking. But in other cases, it's like, oh, wait, there's something there that's important. Don't throw it out. Just
We can start with the desire.
Structured for success.
Yeah. When you say there's something there that's important, don't throw it out. What we do know, as you described this, would be the desire to have that thing, or to get that result, or to have that experience.
Right.
So there's the desire. And if it comes back again next year, it's knocking on the door again. You still have the desire, even if you form some sort of an adaptive strategy to accept the fact that you're not going to get it. It's still there. And to me, I really believe we have internal guidance systems that are built right in that, they can be miscalibrated. We can actually go for the things that really aren't what we're supposed to be having or doing or getting, or the experiences we're not experiences we're supposed to be having. And so we might go down the road a little ways, and that might be what's missing, is the clarification, the clarity that we might need to plug into what is it exactly. For example, I might think that I'm really looking for adventure, so I go out and I think I need to buy a brand new 2025 Tahoe, and that's going to be the adventure. Well, turns out it's more like a $1,500 a month Tahoe payment, and there's nothing adventurous about that,
Right.
because we can't afford to drive it. It's sitting in the garage. I don't have any money left after the payment and the insurance. Maybe the adventure is about, maybe I take a little bit more risks and get more social, go out and get, like you're just saying, like
Yeah.
go out and get connected with people. And that doesn't cost $1,500 a month. And maybe that's more true to meeting what it's going to take to meet that desire for adventure. Just as an example.
Here's another good example. My friend Brad. He and his son had a rough year. His son is, mid-teens, and it's probably, natural what they're going through. But his commitment in 2024 was to, get to spend more time, is what he said, with his son. And so what he's been doing is he rearranged his schedule so that he could be at all his son's baseball games and football games and swim meets. So so Brad is sitting in the stands watching his son play all these sports. And that's supposed to be spending more time, which is still not quite resolving the relationship issues. Spending more time doesn't totally speak to the heart of the matter. And sitting in the stands watching his son play sports doesn't even speak to that, right? So he's doing a big course correction. He's like, okay, I might not be at all and now his son's become, expecting him to be at all the games. And so he's like, listen, Mark, I might not be at all the games. What the point here was that I wanted us to be closer. So let's figure out when we can spend time together that, where we're face to face. You're not on the field and I'm in the stands, and we're actually doing something that enriches our relationship, right? So it's a similar example to the one that
that's a better example, much better example. It's real life, and you've got someone in your life that you know about. That's yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm. So look, we've been referring to it. I call it the heart of the matter, or the essence thing, right? That's one of the things that might lead to the course correction that you're looking for to succeed at your goals in 2025. It's like, okay, I'm doing something around the issue, but I'm not addressing the heart of the matter.
We hope you're enjoying this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the show. You'll find show notes and a transcript at leadershipcoachingpodcast.com. Now, back to the episode. I'm thinking of a client, and I'm not going to name him just out of, because but I will tell some elements of what I'm learning from his experience. And that is that he finds that it's difficult to get himself to go in to take actions. He has a plan. He knows what needs to happen. He knows what actions he needs to take. And he also knows what's at stake if he doesn't take those actions. He's not going to get the outcome and the result that he wants. And he really wants this outcome and these results. And so through the exploration that IFS can provide, which is what I employ with my clients when we come up against a brick wall or any kind of an obstacle to being able to take the actions or to accomplish the overall objective, what he is discovering is that he's got parts that are scared to let him take those actions, because if he's successful, he might be somehow exposed, and that feels a little dangerous.
Yep.
If I'm successful, people are going to notice, and if people notice, they might see what it is that I really don't want them to see about me.
Mm-hmm.
And even that is so vague. He's not clearly aware. What is it that I don't want people to know about me? Interestingly, through an IFS exploration, we begin to see a little bit of it. Oh, this goes back a long, long decades. This goes back years and years and years and years. And automatically, there's this built-in resistance to having success that's equal to the built-in resistance to failing, and keeps him in a place of stuckness. And I think this is pretty common.
Fear of success.
Fear of both success, because if I'm successful, I'm going to get attention that maybe I don't want. Fear of failing, because if I fail, I'm going to get a different kind of attention that I also don't want.
Right.
So when it's around managing things like what people think of me, whether I have their approval or not, what the values of other people, or the unresolved past. By the way, all of those things that I just named are probably from an unresolved past. Then all the clarity in the world that we can muster for what we want in our lives now can get derailed and sabotaged. So I think a deeper conversation is often necessary too, to get to, as you say, the heart of the matter, and maybe the core of what is difficult about having or achieving or doing or being who it is that we want to be.
Right. I want to just also throw in, so there might be people out there listening thinking, well, I got to the core of the matter, but what I discovered is that this is going to take 3 years, what I set out to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to, like, there's this stuckness there, like, oh my God, it's bigger than I thought. When you actually start to play out you might have a well-structured design for your project, and then when you start to implement, you recognize, oh my gosh, this is a lot longer than I thought. It's not a 3-month plan, this is a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
And so that might be, or vice versa. You might have thought, oh God, it's going to take me a whole year to write this book, and you sit down and you get it done in 3 months. And what do I do with the rest of the year? So that's one thing, is the timing. The timing might be something that needs to be adjusted.
Yep. Another reset.
And
just building that right in to the plan, that if through the process of taking these actions, I find that my projected timeline is off, am I willing to reset? If it is going to take 3 years and I thought it was going to take 3 months, am I willing to reset? And what happens inside is what I get curious about initially. What happens inside when I realize it's going to take 3 years instead of 3 months? Am I discouraged? Am I disappointed? What am I making it mean about me, about what I want?
Right, exactly. This is the most important point here, is that, this isn't about restructuring necessarily. That it might lead to that, but it's the internal, what's going on internally, and how to address that. That's what will make the difference.
Right.
Another, I'm just thinking of examples and what might be the source of the adjustment that needs to be made for you to have the success that you planned for 2025. And another thing that, like, I've talked about before on this podcast, when I was in academia, I had trouble toward the end of that career. It got harder and harder to work. I just kept resisting more and more and more, and it ground to a halt. And I got I got out of the field because I was like, this is clearly not working. And what was missing there, what needed to be changed so that I could really renew my spirit and my enthusiasm for working, was people. I was as an academic, I was working alone. So you might have a goal that you thought you're going to accomplish all by yourself, and now you realize, I don't go work on it. I'm not getting anywhere because it's just me. Right. And so the adjustment to succeed might just be to get other people involved. at the very least, an accountability partner or a coach. But it might be this that you want to create a team and have a whole bunch of fun as a team accomplishing this goal instead of doing it all by yourself or not doing it all by yourself.
It sounds like what you're pointing at right now is the need and the value of being able to have conversations with people who can help you with critical thinking when there is a breakdown or an obstacle that you can't seem to get past on your own.
That's one side of it, but it's also, like it could be a lot more fun to do it with other people.
Surprisingly, that is the case most often for me. I'm almost always surprised at how much fun it can be to collaborate with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the mastermind idea. My mind combined with your mind, it does not equal two minds. It equals 100 times, it seems like,
Mm-hmm.
the potential and possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else do we have to say about this? I kind of want to talk a little bit more about my almost lackadaisical. This is what it feels like to me. And I want to make it, I really want to have this be okay, but I'm feeling kind of lackadaisical this year about goal setting and objectives and achievements. And I'm, for the most part, I feel pretty much okay about it. As of this recording, I'm 69 years old, but in March, at the date on my birthday, I'll be 70. And the very next month, I'll start collecting Social Security. And I did a bit of a reset at the end of the third quarter last year, recognizing that I wanted more time to write and I wanted more flex time. So I talked to the boss and I adjusted my schedule so that I was only committed to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. for my coaching hours, which led me to having flex days Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, in other words, doing whatever I want during those days. Often Fridays and Mondays are great days for me to work on my business, to work on myself, and to do my writing. The weekends that happens on the weekends as well. And that has worked out very well. I expected that by limiting the amount of days, times, and hours that I was available for coaching, that my income would drop. And I said to myself, well, that's okay. It's okay if it does. I'm making enough money. Of course, I'd always like to make more, but that is becoming less and less of a concern of mine all the time. So now as I go into 2025, 2024 ended up being such a fabulous year in so many different ways. I did very well in my business financially. I had lots of time to create and write. I had lots of time to take off. And so for me, I'm kind of feeling like I'd like 2025 to continue what I began in 2024 without much of a reset, if any, at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Secondary to maybe not secondary, but even equal to my goal of getting my book to the publisher and getting it published in 2025 is that at least once a quarter, I want to take off and do something. I want to get out of town. So at the end of this month, my son and I are going to go to Port Angeles and we're going to do a writing retreat. And in March, I'm going to head out with a couple of IFS peers and we're going to have a retreat on the Oregon coast.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a daughter in Boise and a son in Whidbey Island that I just mentioned. I've got a couple of sisters around that I'd like to spend more time with. So I want to spend more time connecting with the people that are already in my life, but that I don't feel as connected to as I'd like to. Similar to your friend or client that you just referred to earlier.
Well, I don't hear any lack of enthusiasm. That's normally what I think of when I think of lackadaisical. It's just that it's not for like money or business building kind of goals, but it's for these wonderful other things that you have the spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it's a departure from the like high energy driving, add on more burden type of feel that goal setting typically in the past has had for me. Mm-hmm. And it's taken me this long, I guess, to get to this point. Apparently it has taken this long to get to the point where my goals are more about what can I remove? What can I let go of? and so that I can put more energy into the things that I really, really love:
Yeah.
writing, coaching, family, connection.
Gosh, I wanna say, so unguardedly, I'm just gonna say, I think that's the way to be. You know,
Mm-hmm.
making the most, doing what you really want with the precious time that you have. You know, that seems that, and that sometimes it expresses itself in terms of business goals or health goals. And it sounds to me like now this year for you, it's got more to do with the people and the way you're spending time with people.
Couple of C's: creativity and connection. Yeah, I'd say that's probably it.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to mention today being January 1st, it was either today or tomorrow that my brother Stan got sober, and he's remained sober now 43 years. So shout out to brother Stan. I'll be calling him here just as soon as we finish recording. And with that in mind, I also want to mention that, he did what a lot of people do. They say, I'm going to quit drinking, especially after New Year's Eve and how much I drank last night. I didn't drink last night. I'm just saying that when on New Year's Eve we over party, drink too much, drug too much, sex too much, or whatever we do too much of, New Year's Day ends up being the resolution, because the headache's right there, the hangovers there, the consequences of letting go so much on New Year's Eve hits us. And many people say, that's it, I'm going to quit. And then they find, that they're able to go a day or an hour or a week or a month. And then they find themselves back at it again because it's just too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to say to folks that find themselves in a position like that is that good for you that you recognize that what you're doing isn't working and that you want to make a change. However, I want to offer with my 42 years of sobriety now, that an approach that is much kinder and much gentler, and I believe much more effective, is to be compassionate with yourself and to get curious about what parts of you would have you overdrink, overeat, oversex, overdo, to the point where you've obviously recognized you need to make a change, and then find that you can't because you're just wired to do those kinds of things to that extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Be compassionate, be curious, reach out, get some help from somebody that's got some experience in recovery, that's not going to shame you sober, that's not going to scare you sober, but that's going to support you and help you to be compassionate and loving and curious about what it is that got you to this point in the first place. Start your healing journey. If there's going to be a resolution or a commitment, I really want to encourage you to set a resolution to begin to heal whatever it is that the overdoing, overusing, over whatever it is that you're overdoing is trying to manage. Anything else about reset, new year, planning, goals, resolutions? Anything else on your mind, Marty?
We've been looking at what to do if you had a resolution or a plan or a goal, and it doesn't seem to be taking off yet. We talked a lot about that. And I think we talked a little bit about the other possibility where you see like, oh, I don't need to hold myself to that. Like maybe there's a reason why we didn't discuss that side of it as much. But your example there of your goal, what you're enthusiastic about for 2025 being more about spending time with people you love as opposed to growing your business, because it's growing. You don't need to have that as a goal. That's an example of this. And I just want to make sure that I read you correctly. Do you feel any lackadaisical? Is lackadaisical? Is there any part of you that feels lackadaisical?
Yeah. There are parts of me that are so accustomed to driving so hard and pushing so hard and making myself go beyond. I mean, it shows up as simply as doing the dishes. There are parts of me while I'm doing the dishes that say, I don't want to have to dry them now. And then other parts that are saying, well, it's lazy. You can't just let them air dry in the tray there. You have to dry them and get them put away. So there is an ongoing conflict within me that, and parts that are showing up even now saying, well, gosh, you're only taking appointments 3 days a week, and you're letting yourself travel and spend money and spend time and sitting in a coffee shop for a couple hours connecting with someone. How productive is that? That's not very efficient. It's kind of lazy. So yes, there are parts of me that are still kind of chirping in the background that would rather have me working hard, breaking my back, pushing hard, and pushing that pee up the hill with my nose.
So all parts are welcome. There's a reason, so to speak, why those parts are saying what they're saying inside of you. And just to go back, to go back to Byron Katie, is it true that you are lackadaisical?
And the answer would depend on what part is dominating my conscious awareness right now as I listen to the question.
Right. But so I get that, but I'm asking about the whole.
Yeah, no, it's not
Are
true.
you a lackadaisical person?
Absolutely not. No.
Right. So, I mean, there's conversations to have with those parts for sure.
Yeah. It's hard for me to relax, but I am not. So it always seems ridiculous to consider that I might be a lackadaisical person. And anybody that knows me would have a similar reaction to what you're having. I don't know you, Bill, as someone that's lazy or lax. My parts usually will not let me relax, and unless everything has been squared away.
Right. But there's a place to start a conversation with those parts now, because you know the truth about yourself, and now we just need to find out why are those parts raising this issue? What do they need? How do they need to be attended to?
Exactly. Yeah. Excellent conversations to have. That's that deeper dive that we talked about earlier. And I want to maybe mention one more thing. I was sent a link for a video to listen to Rupert Spira speak. You ever heard of him?
I have not.
He reminds me a lot of Eckhart Tolle without the English accent, but very slow pace, very thoughtful, very deep. And I wrote down a couple of things that he said that just really jumped out for me. He was in a setting where he's talking to people that are asking him questions. And at the beginning of this video, a young man is asking him some questions related to his suffering. So he had some pretty cool things to say to this young man. One of them was, be interested in your suffering, but don't go to war with it. Just be curious. And of course, in IFS, we would say, be curious. And the other thing that he said, and this really relates to what we've been talking about today, I think, is that there's power in the present moment. There's power in the now. But most of us live on the edge of now, and we're so busy becoming that we never slow down enough to be in the present moment and just be. We're too busy becoming. And that spoke directly to me and those parts of me that are constantly driving, telling me I'm lazy if I'm not producing, not being efficient. So it was good for me and my parts to hear that yesterday from Rupert.
That's awesome. Yeah. I would even go so far as to say power is only in the now.
Yeah.
There's no power in the past or the future. It's only in the now.
Yeah.
And so, but I love that. Yeah. We, all those other places that the mind goes, there's something to look at and tend to, and, work with there. But it's when those conversations get complete that we're back in the now and at our most powerful.
Maybe a good place to end.
On power. I love it.
Until our next episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll catch you next episode. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Coaching. where we help you learn to lead with confidence and compassion.
If you enjoyed listening, please share it. Don't miss a single episode. To subscribe and to get show notes, visit leadershipcoachingpodcast.com.